In this video, I'm going to show you how to make your playlists look absolutely beautiful on the Wii U version of Retroarch. One of the great things about Retroarch as a front end is that we are able to make playlists and that we can add cover art to those playlists to help make them look incredibly better than just a text list that you would select a game from. You get the cover art, you could get some screenshots if you want, and they just look really nice in the simplified Ozone UI. The problem with playlists is that when you scan them, sometimes it doesn't input them right, and then when you try to download the cover art for them, it doesn't populate them correctly, which is a real pain in the butt. But thankfully for the Wii U version of Retroarch, there are some online tools that will help us rename our playlist entries so that way we can download cover art easily. So I'm going to show you how to do that today, so let's get started. So for this process, all we need to do is take our Wii U SD card out of the Wii U, put it into our computer, that way we can browse the file contents within. And I'm just going to put that up here for now. Next, open up an internet browser. Doesn't matter which one, just an internet browser. It should work on any operating system. I mean, it's just a web page, so it should be good to go. And we are going to go to Mark Robledo. I probably butchered your name, Mark. I am so sorry. But we're going to go to his Retroarch playlist editor page. There will be a link in the description below for this, so you can just click on that and it'll bring you right here. So what we're going to do now is drag our playlist files into this online playlist editor. If you've been following along with my Wii U tutorial series, I've been having you make playlists for every system that we've covered. So if you open up your Wii U SD card, you'll have a Retroarch folder, and then we are going to go into the cores folder, and this is where our playlists are stored right here. So basically, we're going to go through each of the systems that we've made playlists for and make sure that they are named correctly. So just starting at the top, I'll drag in my Atari 2600 playlist, and the easiest way to make sure that things are named right is we can actually open up two instances of our Wii U SD cards. So I'm just going to open up another one real quick, and I'm going to bring that one down here. But again, I'm going to go into the Retroarch folder, and this time I'm going to go into this database folder, and we are looking for the RDB folder. And the reason for this is that Retroarch has a built-in database of what it expects files to be named for games, so that way it can auto-populate screenshots and things like that. So after you open up a playlist, we can open up the RDB folder and drag the system into it, and it will rename them according to the Retroarch RDB based on what your file name is. And once you've done that, we're just going to save the playlist. Playlist name Atari 2600. And then it's looking for the core path here, so it's the Wii U version, so it automatically populates that. And we're going to have it in JSON format. So click save and it will download it into your download folder. So now all we have to do is just minimize our web browser, go to our download folder, and find the new playlist file, and just overwrite the existing one. There we go. And then just refresh the page so that way it's not bringing up your other one. If you drag another playlist file on top of that, it'll add it to the existing one that's already open, and we don't want that. So just refresh the page, and then we can repeat the process with all of our other systems. So Atari 5200, Atari 5200, save playlist, Atari 5200, Wii U, save. Refresh the page. Atari Lynx, Atari Lynx, save, save. Now, arcade games is where this is exceptionally useful because arcade names have to be in their shorthand MAME format style of naming, otherwise they don't work, and that's the file name, of course. But with our playlist entry, we can name them whatever we like. So if we copy in the Final Burn Neo arcade games database, look at that. All of a sudden, we have proper naming for our games here. So again, just save the playlist and move on down the list. Sometimes when you do it, you might get something that changes into something weird, like my Mario Brothers 3 here got turned into Mario Adventure, so do be on the lookout for that. If that happens, you can just simply click on it and rename it yourself. And make sure to add in a region code behind it because that is what Retroarch expects from its database file. Well, there we go. And then you can just save it once again. And Neo Geo is another one that is really great for this since it uses MAME style names for the file names. So we're going to be able to get this looking a lot nicer than before. Of course, with Neo Geo, we do need to use the Final Burn Neo database once again. And there we go. And for this one, when you click Save Playlist, make sure to change it from FB Neo Arcade Games to SNK space Neo Geo, because that's how if you follow my guides, that's how we have them entered in. So make sure it just matches what you had right here. And there we go. But once you've gone through and done that whole process for each of your playlists, we can just go ahead and minimize out of the Retroarch playlist editor. We don't need it for a minute. And we can close out of the RDB folder because we don't need that anymore. And all we have to do is copy over all of our new playlist files into our playlist folder here on our Wii U SD card. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to replace all of the files with the same names. And there we go. We now have all of our updated playlist entries onto our Wii U SD card. Now, unfortunately, the Wii U version of Retroarch won't let us download thumbnails natively, at least not in the current version that I am using to show off this tutorial. I try to click on the download buttons, and it literally does nothing. I click on download and nothing happens, so what I'm actually using as a workaround is to use the desktop version of Retroarch temporarily to get us the thumbnail files that we need. So go to retroarch.com, click on the download page, there'll be a link in the description, but I'm just going to download the 64-bit version of Retroarch just real quick to get this how I need it. And now that that's downloaded, I'm just going to go ahead and get it extracted. And then I'm going to open up the folder that is created as a result of that. And then I'm just going to run Retroarch real quick. This will default all of its directories into itself real quick, so that way we have the folders we need. And then I'm just going to close it down. And now I'm going to find the playlist folder for Retroarch on the desktop. There we go. And I'm going to copy all of our Wii U playlist folders into it. They won't work, of course, but that's besides the point. We just need it to populate the playlist entries so that way we can download the thumbnails. So now that I have those placed, reopen Retroarch. And as you can see, we have our playlist folders from the Wii U version here on the bottom left. So now what we could do is go to the main menu, scroll down to Online Updater, and then we're going to go to Playlist Thumbnails Updater, and we're just going to tell it to download all of our thumbnails for us. And we're going to do that for all of our playlists. Make this bigger for everybody. And once you finish downloading all those, you can just press backspace a couple times. And now we can make sure that they're going to work. So we can just go over and look at them. And it's not showing stuff for the ZX Spectrum. Not unexpected, honestly. But like we got art for our Virtual Boy, Super Nintendo, Didn't find one for Super Graphics, which is fine. Or PC Engine CD, but we got some for Turbo Graphics. Good. So, for the most part, we got most of our playlist entries populated with proper cover art and everything, as we want, but there are a few examples of ones that just didn't work. Again, Commodore 64 is one that it just absolutely hated for me. It didn't find the banners for my arcade games, and then a couple of my Game Boy games just didn't show up. And just a few examples like that. But one of the great things about using a PC to help in this process for the Wii U is we can access the PC's features of desktop menu to help create these playlists a little bit better. So if you press F5 on your keyboard, this is for the Windows version. I'm not sure how to access or if the desktop menu is available on the Mac or Linux version, but if you press F5 on your keyboard, it brings up the desktop menu. And from here we can actually go through and add cover arts to our games that will be properly named according to our playlist and resized according to what Retroarch needs. So again, we could just find one of the games that we are missing cover art for. So let's go to Rondo of Blood here. So I'm actually going to go to GameFAQs and look up Rondo of Blood. And there we go, Castlevania Rondo of Blood. I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to go to the media section and images. And so Rondo of Blood only came out in Japan, so I'm going to go to the Japanese box art here. And I'm going to right click, save image as, and just save it to my desktop. But basically from there, I'm just going to grab the image, make sure I have Rondo of Blood selected in my desktop menu here, and I'm just going to drag it right here for the box art. And there we go. Now my Castlevania Rondo of Blood has a cover art, so if I leave, come back, there it is, cover art. And I could do this for all the games that happen to be missing cover art. So my GBA playlist was able to find everything but Advanced Wars 2 for whatever reason, so back into GameFAQs. Advanced Wars 2, Media, Images, US Box Art, right click, save image as, save it, have it selected here, drag it right in. There we go, now it has a box art. Game Boy Color, it wasn't able to find my Pokemon ones. Or Mega Man Extreme 1, interesting. So, Mega Man Extreme now has box art. Pokemon Silver now has a box art. And Pokemon Trading Card Game now has a box art. So there we go. All my Game Boy Colors now have box arts. And then Game Boy, it didn't find one for Pokemon Yellow, but it found them for the rest of them, so... And Pokemon Yellow now has a box art. So for whatever reason, it didn't find a cover art for Castlevania, and I think that's because it has this Rev A logo here. So I'm just going to delete that real quick. And tell it to download the thumbnail. And look at that, sure enough, it found it. And I think that's the same problem it had with Mario Brothers 2 as well, so I'm just going to delete that. And tell it to download it again. And sure enough, there we go. So that's another method you can use if it doesn't find them, if you're going to be following this method at least. And I'm pretty sure it found all of the cover arts for my Super Nintendo games. Sure enough. Virtual Boy. Good. SNK Neo Geo CD. I think that it messed up on the language selection. Nope, that wasn't it. Alright, Metal Slug 2, Neo Geo CD. And we'll grab the US box art. And drag it right on in. And then Neo Geo, it was missing Ironclad. Because for whatever reason it's showing up as a prototype. I don't think it's a prototype. Oops. We accidentally put it over Art of Fighting 2. Whoopsie. Anyway, put it on Ironclad. That'll fix Art of Fighting 2. There we go, all better. But yeah, I was able to find items for the rest of them that meet my needs here. So I mean, you could always overwrite existing box arts if you don't like them, or if you want like US versions over Japanese versions or vice versa. So this is a very easy way of getting that all set up. And look at that, we accidentally had a entry for Phantasy Star 1 in the Genesis folder, so just delete that real quick. And I'm not sure why it didn't find our playlist entries for Sonic. That's confusing to me. I'm gonna try removing the Rev A here again. Yeah, for whatever reason, it just does not know how to find Sonic. But that's fine, we could always just go back to GameFAQs. And there we go. Now all of our Genesis games have box art. And I'm not going to worry about fixing up my Intellivision Commodore 64 or ZX Spectrum at this time, because I think that we have kind of beaten the horse here, and I think you all know what you kind of have to do to get them in. But basically, after you finish this part of the process, we can close out of the desktop version of Retroarch. And in our desktop Retroarch folder, there is a thumbnails folder. And that is where all of the thumbnails that we have just downloaded are stored. So you'll see there'll be a named box arts. There we go. So all we need to do is copy these thumbnails into our Wii U SD card. So actually, you know what? We're just going to copy the whole thumbnails folder into the root of our Retroarch SD card. To the root of our Retroarch folder, rather. Alright, and then if you changed any of the names of your playlists, like I just did, we also need to copy back over the playlist files. Otherwise, the ones that you changed the names of on the desktop menu and downloaded cover art for there won't show up when you actually get back to the Wii U, because the playlist names aren't changed, so we could just change them here again. But once you have that set up to your satisfaction, we could take the Wii U SD card out of our computer and put it back into our Wii U and get Retroarch booted up. So now that Retroarch's loaded up, the first thing we want to see is if our playlist entries are showing up as expected, and it looks like they are, and we even have the Rev A gone from Castlevania. And now you'll notice that the thumbnails are not showing up yet, and that's because we haven't set the thumbnail directory for the playlist, so we're just going to go ahead and do that real quick. So going up to settings, we could go over to the right and go down to directory. And from here, we're going to scroll down to thumbnails, and we're going to choose the directory that we just moved our thumbnails to. So for my example, I moved them into the SD card, Retroarch folder, and thumbnails. So I'm going to tell it to use this directory. Then I'm going to back out, go back up to the main menu, and I'm going to save the configuration file. Now when we go to our playlists, not that one, we will have the thumbnails show up. Didn't get one for Darius Plus, but we did get one for Castlevania. And all of our PC Engine stuff is showing up. NES, Neo Geo, and there we go. All the playlists that I added thumbnails to are showing up perfectly on the Wii U version of Retroarch. Again, I didn't bother fixing Commodore 64, my arcade games, Intellivision, or ZX Spectrum. But all the other ones that I went through and fixed are showing up as expected. And honestly, I just love the way it looks. Like, it just looks so cool having the name of the playlist, having the box art over there on the right, and it just looks really good to me. But there is one thing I really don't like, and it's having these region specifications on my games, or language specifications, as we see here on Donkey Kong Country 2. Like, I don't like having those. I don't think it looks very good. So there is a way that we can remove that, and that is to go back to the settings menu here, press up on your D-pad and go to playlists. Now press up on your D-pad and go to manage playlists. And then we could go into an individual playlist, and we could tell it to remove stuff within parentheses. And then we could also set the default core for each playlist as well. So for example, we could set this to Stella 2014. That way it doesn't ask us which core we want to use. It should already have this set, but sometimes it doesn't save it, but we could do that here. And then some might have stuff in brackets too, and you could tell it to remove the parentheses and the brackets. And after you've gone through and done that for all of your playlist entries, we could just back out. And when we go to our playlist, you'll see they no longer have region codes or other types of additional information on display. It's just the game name, which is exactly what I am looking for personally. Looks so much cleaner. But once you have done this, again, just make sure you save it as the in the configuration file, save the current config, so that way whenever you load it up, it's just going to guarantee that it'll look like this. But there we go. Once you have this all set up, we are looking at some pretty playlists, and then we could just go ahead and run the games. And there we have it, a way to get playlists really prettified and looking a lot better on the Wii U version of Retroarch. Again, this is just the method I like to use. It's pretty simple for me. I like being able to use the desktop menu of Retroarch on PC to make the playlist creation a lot simpler, as well as the web-based program to get things named properly to help find the stuff in the first place, so that way we could spend less time searching for individual box arts. Of course, you could do all of this without using the PC version of Retroarch or another PC or another computer version of Retroarch, but I just find the process so much simpler than manually editing playlists, so it is honestly what I prefer to do. It also lets us use the game facts thumbnails just straight off the bat as well. Otherwise, you have to have a very specific size, file type specifications for Retroarch to detect them, but using the desktop menu automatically converts them to those needs, so it's really convenient and quick. But as always, if you happen to have any questions about creating your playlist files and prettying them up on Retroarch, just feel free to ask in the comment section below and I will do my best to try to help you out. But now if you could all do me a huge favor, and please be sure to hit that like or dislike button, just depending on how much you like today's tutorial. Really helps out the searchability of the videos, which in turn helps out the growth of the channel, and I am grateful to all of you for that. And if you haven't already, also hit that sub button so you can see when new videos just like this go live. I think this is going to be the last of our Wii U tutorials before we move on to another system, so just stick around and see what's to come. I like to do this community driven. If you'd like to further help support the channel, we are always grateful to anyone who likes to check out the Patreon or the join button here on YouTube. Really goes a long way to keeping us going, so thank you to all of our current champions who have been with us for so long, or just brand new. Like, we are so grateful to all of you for keeping this place going. But that's going to do it for this one, so until next time, my wonderful internet peeps, stay awesome, and we will see you all back next video.